She was a Tsar's daughter, young, educated, brimming with hope. Yet her life ended in solitude and far too soon, forgotten in a small and obscure German duchy. Around 1800, Mecklenburg was a land of contrasts, while Duke Frederick Franz I cautiously pushed for reforms. Society remained firmly rooted in the feudal order. Friedrich Franz faced constant resistance from Mecklenburg's nobility in his reform efforts. Serfdom continued to shape the lives of large parts of the population. Unlike in Prussia or Saxony, there was little progress for the rural population.
She misses St. Petersburg. Our ways, our rules seem strange to her.
The court in Ludwigslust appeared simple and Protestant in character. There was little to no sense of courtly splendor in Ludwigslust. Amid this dreary and austere period, a young woman whose origins could hardly have been more strikingly different gracefully entered this unassuming principality. On October 23, 1799, in Gatchina, near St. Petersburg, a political alliance was decided upon, one that was typical for the European high nobility of that time. Not everyone at the Tsar's court looked upon this alliance with confidence.
They desired Helena as a bride.
So far away. She's actually quite sensitive, Paul.
The 14-year-old Russian Grand Duchess Helena married the hereditary Prince of Mecklenburg, Friedrich Ludwig, the eldest son of the later Grand Duke Friedrich Franz, and his wife Princess Louise of Saxe-Gotha. Through this marriage, the Protestant House of Mecklenburg forged a significant alliance with one of Europe's most powerful dynasties, the Romanov Tsar's family. Helena Pavlovna was the second daughter of the Russian Tsar Paul I and his spouse Maria Feodorovna, originally born as Princess Sophie Dorothee of Württemberg. Her mother was the daughter of Duke Friedrich II, Eugen, and Princess Friederike Dorothea Sophia, who originally came from Brandenburg-Schwedt. Helena spent her childhood in the midst of the imperial family, as one of 10 children in total. Among her siblings were the later significant rulers, Tsar Alexander I and Tsar Nicholas I. Her grandmother, the Russian Empress Catherine the Great, is said to have found the newborn particularly beautiful and therefore chose the name Helena for her. Her childhood and youth were marked by a comprehensive education. Several tutors and governesses taught Helena at the Tsar's court in philosophy, literature, music, dance, and multiple languages, including German, French, Italian, and English. The marriage of Friedrich Ludwig and Helena was considered harmonious. They had 2 children together. Paul Friedrich, born in 1800, later Grand Duke of Mecklenburg-Schwerin, and Marie, born in 1803. In the long winter nights of Mecklenburg, far from the glittering courts of Russia, Helena takes up her pen. In a letter to her family in St. Petersburg, she offers a glimpse into her new life.
My dearest father, my most beloved mama, today is one of those quiet evenings. The crackling of the fireplace accompanies my thoughts as they travel home to you, to St. Petersburg. The year is now almost over. Mecklenburg shows itself raw and rough, and yet many things here grow close to my heart. Friedrich Franz bears the weight of leadership. The times are uncertain. The farmers complain about the harvests. The nobility worries about Franz's influence, and everything seems to be changing. Friedrich Ludwig is often away, riding out to the farmers. Yet when he returns in the evening and our child rests in his arms, I see a moment of peace in his eyes. Ah yes, our little one, he's now a year old. Today, for the first time, he tried to walk across the room with the wooden horse. And still, my soul longs for St. Petersburg, for the lights, the voices of my sisters, the scent of summer. It's strange. I love it here, I smile. But a part of me is with you. Please hug my sisters for me and tell Amel that I often think of the stories she used to tell me in the winter. I miss you. With love, Helena.
but the young happiness didn't last long. Just a few weeks after the birth of their daughter Marie, Princess Helena fell seriously ill. What initially seemed like nothing more than weakness swiftly progressed into a critical, life-threatening condition, likely a case of pneumonia. On September 24, 1803, barely 18 years old, the young Russian Grand Duchess passed away, far from her homeland, in a country she had only entered a few years prior. Her premature death shocked not only the Mecklenburg princely house, but also her family back in Russia. Initially, she was laid to rest in the palace church in Ludwigslust. A few years later, after the completion of the specially built mausoleum in the palace park, her final resting place was transferred there. The neoclassical structure stood henceforth as a quiet yet enduring monument to her brief but remarkably impactful life story. The House of Romanov-Holstein-Gottorp represented a dynastic alliance between two influential noble families, the Russian Romanovs and the Holstein House of Gottorp. It stands as the final Tsarist dynasty of the Russian Empire, holding power from 1762 until the Revolution of 1917. This lineage is connected to the far-reaching Oldenburg family, widely acknowledged as one of Europe's most ancient ruling dynasties. Numerous European royal houses were connected to the Russian Tsarist family through marital alliances, including the Prussian Hohenzollerns, the Hanoverians, and later the British Windsors as well. The lineage emerged in the 18th century through strategic dynastic marriages, particularly through Peter III, grandson of Peter the Great, who descended from the House of Holstein-Gottorp through his father. With the ascension of his son Paul to the throne in 1796, the son of Peter III and Catherine the Great, the Romanov-Holstein-Gottorp line officially became the ruling dynasty. The rulers of this dynasty led the Russian Empire through a period of extensive political, social, and territorial changes, from the expansion of the empire to internal reforms, and through the crises and upheavals at the turn of the century. Helena's father was Paul I, born in 1754 as the only male child of the future Empress Catherine II, and of her husband Peter III. Despite rumors suggesting he was actually the child of a courtier, Peter III acknowledged him, the boy immediately as the legitimate heir to the throne. Shortly after his birth, the infant was separated from his parents and entrusted to the care of Empress Elizabeth Petrovna. She raised Paul at court and even considered making him the heir to the throne at times. The early loss of maternal closeness and the experiences of violence in an intrigue-filled environment deeply shaped Paul's character. He developed a deeply sensitive distrust that would come to dictate his later actions. After the overthrow and assassination of Peter III in 1762, the young Grand Duke received from Catherine II, Gatchina Palace. It was there that he established his own court and maintained a modest private army. A miniature court, which also served as a refuge increasingly marked by bitterness. In 1773, Catherine decisively compelled him to renounce his paternal inheritance of the Duchy of Schleswig-Holstein-Gottorp, another blow against the rightful heir to the throne. Only after Catherine's death on the 17th November 1796, the 42-year-old Paul ascended the Russian throne. Only a few months later, he enacted the House Law of 1797, which exclusively allowed male descendants to succeed to the throne, a clear break with the practices established by his mother. In foreign policy, Paul sought closeness with France, a shift in course that unsettled his previous allies. The crippling fear of attacks drove him to transform the Mikhailovsky castle into a heavily fortified stronghold, secured with drawbridges and wide defensive moats. Yet all the mistrust proved futile. On the night of March 23rd to 24th, 1801, a group of high-ranking conspirators broke into his bedroom. Paul was strangled. It's a twist of fate that it was none other than his own son, Alexander I, who ended up having a hand in it, who would later emerge as the beacon of hope to reform the empire. Helena grew up surrounded by siblings who also made significant contributions to history. Her family was far more than just a Russian ruling house. Alexander I was the eldest son and took the throne in 1801 after his father Paul I's violent death, crowned as Tsar. He was seen as a contradictory character, open to reforms yet marked by inner turmoil. In the fight against Napoleon, he became a key figure. As the victor over the French Empire, he significantly shaped the Congress of Vienna. Konstantin Pavlovich, the second oldest brother, was the designated heir to the throne, but surprisingly refused the crown in 1825. This decision sparked an uprising, a revolt of young officers demanding a constitution and an end to absolutism, which was ruthlessly crushed by his brother Nicholas, the newly crowned Tsar. Nicholas I, the youngest of the ruling brothers, became Tsar after Constantine's abdication. He was a reformer domestically, but brutal toward uprisings. The Crimean War at the end of his reign exposed the weaknesses of the Tsarist Empire. Alexandra Pavlovna was married off to Archduke Joseph of Austria when she was only 15 years old, but she passed away just 2 years later during childbirth. Her death dealt a heavy blow to Russo-Austrian relations. Maria Pavlovna married Karl Friedrich of Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach and turned Weimar into an intellectual and cultural center. She was a patron of the arts. Under her patronage, figures like Franz Liszt flourished. Her descendants later played a significant role in the German imperial house. Her granddaughter was Augusta of Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach, who went on to marry the Prussian Prince Wilhelm in 1829. The later Kaiser Wilhelm I. Maria Pavlovna was therefore the grandmother of the first German empress and, through her daughter, a direct ancestor of the House of Hohenzollern, which established the German Empire in 1871. Katharina Pavlovna rose to become the Queen of Württemberg through her marriage to King Wilhelm of Württemberg. She was known as dynamic, charitable, and close to the people. She initiated social reforms and is remembered in Stuttgart to this day through the Queen Katharina Foundation and the Katharina Hospital. Olga Pavlovna passed away as a young child, a fate that was far from rare at the time. Anna Pavlovna became Queen of the Netherlands through her marriage. She introduced a great deal of Russian ceremonial customs to the Dutch court, but was often seen as reserved. Her son William later became King of the Netherlands. Michael Pavlovich was a military man through and through, a loyal brother, but always in the shadow of grand politics. He was in charge of overseeing the Kronstadt fortress expansion and also commanded the guard. Helena Pavlovna, a Russian Grand Duchess born in the glittering splendor of the Tsar's court, passed away in the serene vastness of Mecklenburg. Her lifespan was brief, her path shaped by political alliances, familial expectations, and perhaps also by a quiet longing for her homeland. Her name endures in the memory of a young woman whose journey carried her from the dazzling world of the Romanovs to the tranquil isolation of Ludwigslust,